triangle, you're going to need to do the base times the height divided by 2. So you'll have looked at areas of triangles a few times previously. And the thing to remember here is that the height has to be the perpendicular height, which means that the height here is at 90 degrees to the base. Okay, so we could also have had this as a base, in which case the height would then need to be the perpendicular all the way to the top of the triangle. Okay, so you could have also used those two measurements as well as an example. But the important part to remember is that you must have perpendicular height and base. So for example, if I had a triangle that was a base of 4 and a height of 3, then the area would be 4 times 3, and then I divide that by 2. So 4 times 3 is equal to 12 divided by 2, so the area of this would be 6 units squared. So the next shape is a parallelogram, and the parallelogram is just the base times the height, so it's actually exactly the same as a rectangle, because I could cut out this extra little bit here, for example, and I could move it over to here, and that would then form my rectangle. So if it's just base times height, again, it must be the perpendicular height. We can't have this slanted height here. It must be the perpendicular distance between the base and the top. So if my base was 4 and my height was 7, then it would just be 4 times 7, and that's equal to 28 units squared. And then we also have a trapezium. So for a trapezium, you have to add together the two parallel sides. Okay, so A and B are always the two parallel sides. So these two here are parallel to one another. You add them together. You multiply it by, again, the perpendicular height. So whenever we see height, we're always talking about the perpendicular. And then we divide that by 2. So adding together these two things, timesing by the height, dividing by 2. And the reason for this is because I'm taking one of my trapezium and I'm going to copy it and put it the other way up. At which point you actually have a parallelogram. And the area of a parallelogram is the base, which would be A plus B times the height. But because we only wanted the trapezium, not the whole thing, we therefore divide by 2. So if my question had a base of 4 and a slanted height of 3, and the height here is 2, and the other measurement is 3, for example, then I would be taking the two parallel sides, so the 3 and the 4, and I would be adding those together. So 3 plus 4, and then I would be multiplying that by my perpendicular height. So I actually don't need this one at all. Okay, so look out, because sometimes they give you more information than you need. So I would be multiplying that by 2, and then I would be dividing everything by 2. So that then gives me 2 times, and then 3 plus 4 is 7, divided by 2, which is 14 divided by 2, which is just 7 units squared. So that's an example of a trapezium.